Recording in progress.
It is 6:31, and I would like to call the meeting of the March 4th Sammamish Parks and Recreation meeting to order, please. Start out with roll call. Anna?
Here.
Ron?
Present.
Nancy?
Here.
Chris?
Here.
I am here. Sina?
I'm here.
Oh, great. And Zoe is not able to make it this evening, and Kristen is not able to make it. I don't know about Roberto. Is he? He's not here as well. So we do have a quorum, and we will now begin. We received, first of all, is to approval of the agenda as presented. Is there anyone who has any comment on anything they would like to change on the agenda for this evening? Seeing none, we'll proceed then to the approval of the meeting summary. We are all provided with a summary. Anyone have any changes, additions, corrections for the agenda? For the summary. Seeing none, we approve that, and we are now into public comment. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment tonight? Thank you. We have two people who have signed up. First is Marty Rhodes. Could you please come to the podium there? And I'd like to make sure that you limit yourself to 3 minutes worth of comments, please. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Hi, my name is Marty Rhodes, and I'm a member of Sammamish Rotary, but I'm here representing C3, the Community and Culture Collective. We're a coalition of nonprofits working to transform the 120 building into a vibrant, inclusive community center in Sammamish. I'm just here as a representative of the coalition. I wanted to introduce myself to this group and to make certain that the Parks and Recreation Commission knows of our interest in this project. Thank you.
Marty, can you once again tell us what C3 stands for?
Yes, the Community and Culture Collective.
And how long have you been in existence?
We just got our nonprofit status in the past month, but the group has been meeting for over a year.
Great. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And second in line this evening is Mary Wichter.
Good evening, Parks Commission. Mary Wichter. I've been in Sammamish for 25 years. I have 2 sons that are grown and married. Kind of an empty nester, but I can just tell you I've been in Sammamish for over 25 years, and we're activities people, so we did a lot of things, and I was able to do a lot of support to schools as a volunteer for over 10 years. My kids went from kindergarten through high school graduation, and they even used Bellevue College for some of their college courses, like passing that organic chemistry class. So anyway, I'm here tonight because I just really, really, really believe in the 120 building. It was purchased originally for about $6 million when the value of it was about $12 million. So if you're worried about the amount of money you're saving, $6 million was saved, and I forget what year it was purchased, but King County can tell you that when you look up King County Parcel Viewer. The Central Washington site was a really good idea to do. However, I think they started at about the time that the COVID started happening. So I think that was one of the reasons why they couldn't get it kicked off. But there were people that did things there. And I learned through them because they were doing signage stuff. And I talked with them, and I learned that the front area, the grassy area, had been compacted so that another building could be built. I learned that from them, and I don't know if that's true or not, but the stuff I'm saying, like the original purchase price, that's public knowledge, and if it can be used for other things, like I think the city could even put housing on it to do things. I know when we were going to get a park and ride from ST3, it was going to be able to be a park and ride. So I think there's a bunch of uses of it. There is a large surface that's paved, and I remember the stormwater discussions that they had, and the stormwater seems like it's working fairly well. And just, I'm going to list the things that my kids did where it was really hard to get a leader or hire somebody to come into the city or find space to do. We did a small hands-on art. There's also a repertory theater. Those people need classrooms or places to be able to do it. We were in chess club. We were in scouts. I actually ran after-school art programs where we hired somebody and they came in. It was hard to do those in classrooms because people don't want paint spilled, but I think that 120 building would be great. We did extracurricular activity like math club. We did Pacific Science Center's Mad Science where somebody needed to come in. We did a boys choir in first, second, third, and fourth grade. We did musical performance on gyms and stages all the way up through high school. And I know Eastlake High School's Performing Arts Center is so busy, even the Sammamish Symphony can't get in there. There are files stored in the building, that's fine, but eventually those are going to get scanned in. The existing use, I think anything that you could do under the conditional use permit, you should try to do. Add things like exercise classes, but location is important for real estate. I think you've got a great location there between the two high schools, so I hope at least you'll take the land and do whatever you can best do with the budget and the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Molly, do we have anybody online? We do not. Okay, well then we will close public comment and move on to our first topic, which is project update, Building 120 feasibility assessment and community use planning. Anjali.
All right. Good evening, Parks Commission. For the record, I'm Anjali Maya, Director of Parks and Recreation, and I have for you tonight the presentation about Building 120, which is located at 122 28th Avenue, Northeast. And it was occupied by Central Washington until recently, and we intentionally have given this interim name, so there is no predetermined use of the building while we go through a feasibility study. The presentation that I have for you tonight is actually the same presentation that was given to Council, and Council has requested that we include the Parks Commission in this effort, and so I am the purpose again is to just get everyone here up to speed, and feel free to stop me at any point in the presentation if you have questions. So the two things we will do is just a little bit of background information, and then I'm going to walk through the scope and timeline of the feasibility study that Council approved in January of this year. So the facility was originally constructed in 2008, and for those of you who have lived on the plateau for a while, it was built as a church and changed hands quickly, and then it became Mars Hill Church, and then was purchased by the city in 2015 for the $6.1 million, as Mary Victor just shared. The building measures roughly 30,000 square feet, and there are collectively two parcels of land that measure about 22.5 acres. And it is accurate that the actual place of worship, the church, was intended to be on the lawn in front. And what the consultant team is looking at right now was the stormwater factored in, keeping the larger building in mind, or was it just designed for the building we see today? And it also explains why, you have doors that look like they're going to open onto a hallway, but and they face exterior, but that is because they weren't intended to open on a hallway, and then there was going to be the other half of the building. The building right now, last time with a show of hands, we found that most Parks Commissioners have already been in the building. We do host city events there regularly. It does have a gym that also has a stage that makes it fairly useful for when we have events. And there is a kitchen attached to the gym that no longer has equipment, so it cannot, we can't start using it tomorrow, but with a little bit of effort, we could get it functional again. There are about 5 offices on the lower floor and a largish open space, and then a total of 6 classrooms and another open area on the upper floor. So the reason the city had purchased this building was with the goal to attract higher education to the plateau. And the city's intent was never to own this long term. The way the lease was set up was a rent to buy. So the rent went up every year. And the idea was that the city would support higher education and support Central Washington till they, establish themselves, and then they would step in and buy the building. But I guess the pandemic did have a role in this, and they just didn't have enough students enroll, and so they had financial constraints, and the level of subsidy that they were requiring from the city was not feasible because we still have a large part of the maintenance as the city's responsibility. So then it was no longer viable for them to stay, and then they did decide to discontinue their lease. And now a little bit about the zoning. This lot is zoned residential and has R6 zoning. But then Central Washington applied for a conditional use permit, and they were operating under that permit. And the way that permit is written is that when they leave the building, then for a period of 1 year after they leave, that use stays in effect. And after that, of course, it's the directors of community development's discretion. If they can extend that until we figure out a new use for the building. And when Central took it on, there were a couple other uses. I think there was a group that was renting it for basketball in the gym. So the way the conditional use permit was written is it did allow some subsidiary uses that were similar to the primary use. So under that umbrella, what the city did do is continue a few of the subleases so that everybody was not, inconvenienced overnight. So we have Microsoft renting, using the front portion of the parking lot as a park and ride. And then we have 2 tutoring groups that use the building, one of them on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and I believe the other one is just Wednesdays. And then Central Washington chose to hold on to one classroom for a 1 day in the week math class, but they have let us know that they are not continuing even that single classroom use. And then the Y has had a use of the gym. The other thing that community development is doing as part of this transition is that they have in their legislative docket to rezone this building to a mixed-use center to just expand the possible uses on the site. Now that was tentatively scheduled to be complete by the end of this year, but that's can sometimes take longer. Staff have to have capacity, so they will keep us posted on how that goes. I guess I already covered some of this information about the secondary use. Yes, I have covered this information. We did complete a facilities condition assessment of some of our bigger buildings, and we did that for City Hall, the MOC, that's our maintenance center, and we included this building in that effort, the Central Washington. It was at the time used by Central Washington, Building 120. We completed a facility condition assessment. And the consultant did find there were certain things that were coming to the end of their life cycle. There were a few things that had to be taken care of immediately, and then there are things that would be nice to do. And all of that together is in the range of 4 to 5 million if you add it all up. So the reason we just share that is there are things like, you walk into the building, it seems fine. But then at some point soon, some of the mechanical units, your HVAC units, are going to need to be replaced. There is some water seepage in the walls. At some point, the roof will need replacement. So all of that is documented in detail. And as part of the feasibility study that Council has approved, the consultant is looking at that information and will update those costs from 2022. And I'll get into that a little bit more in the next few slides.
So you're a welcoming question. Is that 45 million? Is that 4 to 5 million just for what the 120 building, or does that include the maintenance operation and the
Just
just 120? Okay.
yes. And again, some of this I did cover, that council authorized. So, when this happened, we did go to council and obviously ask them if they wanted to use this opportunity to just pause and figure out selling the building, because it's expensive to maintain buildings, or if they wanted us to find another entity, another agency that would be interested in just leasing the whole building, or to continue with these subleases, helps keeps the lights on in the building, and then do a long-term feasibility, because it's really hard to start using the building a little more. We operate as a contract city, right? As you know, and we do that not just for parks, we do that for police, we do that for fire. And currently, our community and aquatic center that the city built, we have the YMCA as the operator. For our teens and after school care, we have the Boys and Girls Club that rent what used to be, they used to be the library, the old King County Library. And then for senior services, we have, I guess the city put out a request for proposals, and the one that they picked was from the IACS, the Indian Association of Community Services, and those services are offered out of the Beaver Lake Lodge on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So that is how we have operated. So we don't have the staff to go in and open the doors to building 120, and so we do have to figure out a long-term plan. And once that is complete, I'm sure we can have conversations about how do we phase into this. Because if what we hear from the community is something different from what that building offers today, or if there are some renovations to be done, that takes time and money. So the first thing we had to do is, when Central left, they picked up all their stuff and left. There was no IT equipment, there was no Wi-Fi, there was no furniture, and yet we had these subleases signed. So we had to immediately go in, rekey the building. We had to get minimal furniture in the rooms that the tutoring groups are using. We had to work with IT to get the internet going, and get some basic audiovisual equipment operational, again, just in the room, a couple of rooms that need it. So those costs as of the end of last year were about $120,000. That number is growing. We have a few more things to do. We've intentionally left some of their signage, and they have some quotes on the walls. They have some stickers of brickwork. And once we started peeling that, we're going to have to turn around and paint it immediately. So we've slowed down on that effort, because that takes time and money too. But generally speaking, we are able to, like I said, keep the lights on and balance our ongoing costs. Roughly, the cost to operate the building right now is about $190,000, and the amount we bring in from the subleases is about $170,000. And the other thing we've done is looked at some of our city uses, and one room in this building is used for record storage. We were previously paying for that to be done at Iron Mountain, and now we have brought that in. The city is working towards digitizing all our records. So that's not a long-term use, but for now, we have one room of building 120 for record storage. And then our two partners have been requesting constantly for trainings. Police has been requesting it for trainings, and Eastside Fire and Rescue for some of their classes and interviews and such. And it is a burden on staff, because right now we don't have the additional staff, and we have to coordinate all this and make sure we have a facility monitor for when it's the tutoring groups. And facility monitors, they can call in sick or not show up, and then the tutoring group doesn't have access to the building. And there's hundreds of students that come through on a Saturday afternoon. So we've been doing the best we can, and we know that this is a short-term use. And with that, I think we move into the long-term use planning. I'll take a pause and see if there are any other questions about history or background. Okay, then I will move right along. For the long-term use planning, we put out a request for proposals, and we had a group of staff, including the city manager's office. We evaluated those proposals, and OPSIS Architecture was unanimously selected. They have done several community centers and facilities. They've worked recently with Redmond on their senior and community center. I believe they're working with Kirkland. They've designed a community center in Vancouver, Washington. So, yes. Thank you. I might be even 2 slides behind. Thank you for that. Apologies. All right. So, so we took a contract to council for a feasibility study with OPSIS Architecture in January of this year. And we hope to complete, and I'll go through the 3 phases, and we hope to complete the work by the fall of this year. And the goal of that is if we can share the findings of that with council, and they can then make some decisions to inform our 27-28 budget. So that is why we hope to stay on schedule. So
Actually, excuse me, just to be clear, there's no commitment by the city to make the improvements or any type of improvements to it at this point. It's just a feasibility study. Is that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
How much is the contract for the feasibility study?
It is about $300,000 and some change. And that study does include updating some of the studies, and I'll actually just dive right into it here. So we're doing this work in 3 phases, and we are going to have a checkpoint with council at the end of every phase. And we will do our best to keep the commission also informed at the end of each phase. So the first phase is really just going and understanding the building and the site. We do have the 2022 study, but what we don't have is we have outdated critical area studies and things. So we want to understand this. The whole site is in a wetland. If we had to purchase it today, there's very little we could do. We already have a building, and so that will be factored in. And then we hope that even that future building that wasn't built will also get some credit for. So that is the kind of information we are gathering: is what are the bookends? What is the condition of the building? It is a concrete tilt-up building, so that comes with some limitations, like you can't just go put a door anywhere in the wall because precast concrete slabs. And so there's a team assembled. You have the architect, mechanical, you have structural, you have the landscape team, you have a team that will do a market analysis, and you have a team that will do community engagement. So that's all of that together is that $300,000. So in the first phase, it's just the team that's looking at the building and the site. They will evaluate it. And they will also look at, is there something that's, any red flags, any big costs, and they will actually assemble the costs. Okay, if you were to use this building, these are the things we recommend you do. If you've been inside the building in the lower floor, there are some odd, smaller columns that just break up the space. It's at the lower floor and the upper floor. So they will evaluate, are those structural or not? And can we open up the space? Can we use it better? So they will look into some of that. They look into the condition of the HVAC. If you go into some of those rooms, it's really loud, like the fan of the HVAC running. So they're going to look at that information, but they won't go too far. We were instructed by council, don't spend all your money at that stage because you haven't yet heard from the community what they want. And there's a little bit of then going back and using that same expertise to see, how do we incorporate what we've heard from the community? Like if there are certain uses that require renovation, that's going to take some additional structural analysis or what have you. So at the end of this first phase, we'll go to council, we'll share the findings, the costs with them, and then we will hear from them what are their desires for the building, and then we will also go out to the community and ask them what they want from the building. Now, for this phase, the goal is to try and meet people where they're at, and not so much as just say, hey, 5 p.m. on such and such a day, you need to show up at City Hall, because we've learned that isn't always the most convenient way of hearing from the community. There's some people who are just not comfortable coming and talking to us here. So that's to be figured out. And once we get a little closer to that, our team would welcome any of the commissioners if you're willing to help us with tabling events, or even just, come to one or two of those meetings where we are going into maybe a local church or. Thank you. Yeah.
This market analysis of existing resources and facilities, does that just include the 120 building? Or is that going to include the old library and the buildings at Big Rock South and Beaver Lake? When we talk about the market analysis, is it citywide or just?
Yeah, and we're going to find out a little more about that when we work with the consultant. That is also, the market analysis is part of that,
Right.
with the community engagement. They might give themselves a little bit of an early start, because we want our consultant to understand the lay of the land. We want them to understand other amenities that we already have, and also to understand what do our neighboring cities offer, and then go out into the community with that understanding. Now, how much of that they are going to analyze and bring back, we do have to check in with them. But it's fairly easy information. Staff have already started, gathering that information. The YMCA typically reports out once a year to council, so, we'll have updated information on the services that we have and that we are providing. So then we can listen to the community and find out where the gap is. So yeah, with that, I will. Yes, go ahead.
So that 300,000 for the feasibility study, is that just for the first phase, or is that for
All
several
three phases.
phases?
All three phases.
So if they just decide to go through the first phase and then decide to sell the property, for example, then it would just be
The money that
portion.
is spent to that date.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about this. This is the, the community engagement phase. And after we hear from the community, the consultant will present those findings again to council to determine whether we proceed, what have we heard, and also to understand where are the gaps. So that would be phase 2. And then if council wants us to proceed, then the consultant will bring all that information together and come up with just some conceptual costs and ideas. Like if they've heard, that there's a certain need, say it's, some kind of meeting rooms, and then some walls need to be built, they will cost that out. If they hear that, they want more pickleball courts outside, I don't know. So then they will try and cost adding outdoor, indoor improvements, and then take all those costs back to council for consideration. So the timeline for this is they're actually close to wrapping up studying the building and the site. So we should be able to go back in front of council early April. And again, we will report out to the commission on those findings as well. Then we will, if we get authorization from council, we'll go into the public engagement that will span all the way through July. Our goal is to report out the findings of that second phase before council goes on recess. And then if we get the go-ahead to go into phase 3, then we will basically work through August and September and then present our findings in October to council. And that brings me to the end of my presentation.
Great. Do we have any more questions for Anjali? Well, it's certainly an exciting opportunity, and I assume that at least at this point, no other firm or company or whatever has come forward to the city and say, hey, we want to buy it, or something like that.
So that's a great question. We have heard a lot from people, and they've gone any which way, right? They call the front desk. Some of them go to community development. Some of them go to the city manager's office. Some of them come to us, and it's anything and everything. There's folks who've wanted to just come in and buy the building. They've expressed interest in making it an indoor tennis and pickleball court center. There's been some local cultural groups that have wanted to buy the building. And so everyone is on pause. And then, of course, there are groups that want to use the space. And for that, it's really hard. How do we decide who is more important than the other when we don't have the staff to support the space? And we have to keep in mind, buildings like these are open from, say, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it's not an 8 to 5 commitment. In fact, right now the facility monitors are there on, I believe, Wednesdays and Saturdays. It's up to later in the evening, like maybe 8 p.m. So, and the Y, we have, they are a partner of the city, so we have made an exception because they get their own key into the gym and out, and they're only one group using that space. So the rest of the building is locked up. They don't have access to the rest of the building. So there is a lot of interest. People are asking to use part of the space. People are asking to buy the building.
So that's obviously a consideration by city council as well. Is it a better option to sell the space and take the money and leave it up to someone else?
That's right.
Okay. Nancy?
Just on the ground, we have the Y, which I think everyone thought that was going to be adequate. But as a user who's there at least 4 times a week, it is packed all the time. So definitely there is demand, and as the city grows, we are going to outstrip the Y. And the reason I ask is if the other facilities are going to be closed. I drive by the old library day and night, and I very rarely see anyone there. So it seems like we have a bit of a disconnect between, we are now going to be a property manager of major space between the library, the 120 building, what's going to happen at Big Rock South, the old library, the Y. It's a lot of responsibility, and we need to match up what people are using, what they might use, with what we have. It's a big task, really big task. So more power to the staff and the council and the commission as we examine what we should be doing. And I think one important point about that is that we have Big Rock's project underway now, and how now does the existence of the 120 building inform what we do at Big Rock South? I think it's something important to think about. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Nancy. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Look forward to hearing more about the findings at the end of phase 1. And hopefully that'll point to some direction that we will want to follow. Our second item on the agenda this evening is the improvements to the East Sammamish Park baseball fields.
And for this next presentation, Karen Chen is joining me. And Karen has been with the city since December, so a very short time. And in a very short time, she has been able to move this project along. And this is the East Sammamish Park baseball fields improvement. And this is her first time presenting to the commission. And so I just ask you to keep that in mind, and I am here to help as well. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you, Anjali, for the introduction. And thank you, Michelle, to join me online. I'm Karen Chen, and today I'm going to give you the updates for East Sammamish Park East baseball field improvements. We went to the site back in January together to look at the site, and then today I'm going to cover the background, project overview, timeline, and budget. And the purpose of the meeting today is getting the recommendation on which budget option to proceed with. So I think many of you are already familiar with this site. East Sammamish Park is located at Northeast 16th Street, outlined in red here, adjacent to Margaret Mead Elementary, closer to 216th Avenue Northeast, a north part of city of Sammamish. The park was originally built in the early 1990s before it transferred from King County to the city. And the master plan was adopted in 2008. And since then, several improvements have been made, including the foul ball netting installation in 2014 and 19, and sport court resurfacing with pickleball court in 2022. The 19-acre park includes 2 baseball fields, 1 multi-purpose field, 2 sports courts to have 2 tennis courts and 4 pickleball courts, a play area, a shelter, restroom, and parking lot. The main goal for this project is to convert the turf infield to synthetic turf, which covered in the base bid. So in 2020 athletic study, these fields were identified as a priority for improvement within the city. So this conversion will not only provide us significant improvements in user experience for our community, but also benefit to our maintenance crew. Especially the infield striping has been very labor intensive. And since these are 30-year-old ball fields, our design consultant also put together a cost estimate for several additional improvement items during design phase. We view these items are useful reference for future planning. Even if they are not implemented right now, they give us a good reference and clear path for potential improvements down the line. So the base bid will cover our main goal, convert the infield to synthetic turf, as well as irrigation modification to replace the old valves and heads, as well as like some ADA improvements in between the baseball fields and the entry area. Also, while resurfacing the warning strip. And add-on one is the batting cage, which is in the very poor condition right now. And so the scope will be covered resurfacing the synthetic turf and replace several posts. And that is kind of the priority to our community. And add-on 2 is the outfield, since these are 30 years old baseball fields, like we mentioned. So the lawn condition is not that ideal. So this add-on will be covered the lawn renovation. And add-on 3 is fencing improvements. Although the fence condition currently functionally okay, but several sections is bent or misaligned, like what you see in the picture here. Which will affect the long-term stability and the maintenance need in the future. So this add-on will cover the fence fabric replacement, lower tension bar installation, backstop, and control neck replacement. Several major impacts after renovation include reduce the game cancellation due to rainouts. We estimated it will increase 50% for field use, and cost saving of $21,700 per year for maintenance preparation. And we will no longer need groomers, so it will save around $20,000 for replacement. And current charge for the field is $20 per hour, and the new rate will be $26 per hour. We have completed the design phase, now moving to request for quote and prepare contracts. And we will wait until the end of the Little League season end, which is June 30th, to start the construction on site. And we expected to complete the construction on the first week of September before the school start. And during the construction, the pickleball and tennis court will remain open, but the multi-purpose field, restroom, and play area will be closed. And a portion of the parking lot will be closed for staging as well. We will provide temporary restroom in north of the pickleball court. Moving to the budget. So the quote we receive for the base bid is around $900,000, with the soft costs, which is the design and engineering costs, and Washington State tax and contingency. The total project cost will be $1.3 million approximately. We have $1.4 million in CIP funding, so this is in the budget, and we will have $154,000 remain. The adult one for the batting cage, it will cost $100,000 approximately. Adult 2 outfield is around $658,000. Adult 3 fencing improvement will be around $511,000. And here we put together some options for comparison. So option 1, which is in our budget, will cover the base bid and adult 1. We will have $154,000 remain. And option 2, we will renovate the infield and outfield together. And with this option, the total cost for the project will be $1.9 million, and we are around $500,000, $500,000 short. And option 3, we put together all the adults, all the recommended improvement items, and the total project cost will be around $2.4 million, and we will be around $1 million short. And adult 1 will be covered by capital repair and replacement program in all scenarios. So adult 1 is not included in the total project cost in the above table. So to wrap up my presentation, staff recommend to pursue option 1, which is in the budget. We'll never renovate the infield and batting cage at this time. Now we're looking for your feedback and answer any question you may have. Thank you.
I have a question. If you go back to the slide with the alternatives and the costs, and let me first ask, if money wasn't an object, what would be the highest priority?
We put together the kind of the need. So this adult option actually is based on the priority for user. So batting cage is the top priority, and then outfield is the second, and then fencing is a little bit lower since they are in more better condition.
So I'm going to respond in a little longer answer, because just to provide context, when the athletic field study was done, the goal of that study was to increase the use of the fields, but be optimum on the amount of money spent. So they wanted to make sure there was a return on investment. So it was intentional that they proposed only improving the infields because of that reason, because that's what reduces rainouts, reduces maintenance costs. And so that's what we set out to do. Now, once we moved forward, of course, you hear from your crews, and then you hear from the consultant team also went back and said, wouldn't it be nice? Because then you have, it takes a while to close down the field and do the work. And since these fields are 30 years old, yes, they would love to have new, grass laid down, new sod in the outfield. But then if we truly stick to the return on investment and what we set out to do, we should technically do neither. But we had decided, the consultant had offered to add this to the scope to get the cost, because this is something we can consider in future years. It's very easy for our crews to go out and get a contract to do the outfield for a couple of fields like this, or use maybe even our on-call contract for the fencing. So to answer your question, if things came in better under budget or money wasn't a consideration, we might have pushed for the outfield, probably not the fencing at this time.
So it sounds like that if you could figure out the money in the budget, you might go ahead with the outfield, but it's not necessarily a huge priority.
That's right.
So if we we have the base bid for work that's getting done now, is there any big advantage other than the use to get all the work done at the same time, or could the outfields be delayed for a couple of years, or the fence delayed for 5 years, or whatever?
Yes, or potentially try and tackle both at the same time, because one of the things, if you recall, with the outfield fencing is the crews are asking for a concrete mow band to make it easier to maintain. So it might be nice to even tackle them both together, or exactly how you proposed. In a couple of years, perhaps do the outfield grass replacement, and then 5 years from now, the fencing.
So there's no like pressing need for the outfield. There's no plan, a firm plan where 1, 2, 3 years we must. It's just
No. Yeah.
something to do. Okay. The increase from $20 to $26. What was the purpose for the increase, and how did you come to the 26?
So our recreation team that rents our fields, they did a market analysis of how other jurisdictions. So there are set rates for grass fields, there are set rates for artificial turf, and these are called combination fields. And we don't have a requirement to break even or anything. So there isn't a mathematical exercise that we use to arrive at that. But it is to recover some of the costs, right? We are putting in about $1.5 million to make these improvements. And so it's just a small cost recovery based on market rates.
Could you go, there was another accounting page after this that had the different
The three options.
options.
Yeah. And one more thing to answer Commissioner White's question is that there is currently for games we charge for, I think for prepping the fields, I don't recall the exact cost, $25 for each time they prep the field, or maybe even more than that, and that cost is going to go away because with the turf, everything is already in place.
Yeah, that's $21,700 per year, which is here. Oops.
I think you had it.
Yeah, it's this one.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
This is the preparation, maintenance preparation cost.
Oh, so over the year, that's the expected savings, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also don't charge the leagues that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My son used to play baseball on these fields. What are you going to answer on this question?
Yes.
Okay, excuse me.
Yeah, you want to go back to that,
The
the three options.
options. Yep. Mhm.
So the option one includes the batting cages.
That's right.
Oh, I see. And then each other option adds more
That's right.
amenities. Okay. Just wanted to
As
get
I'm
clear.
recalling from our visit, those batting cages are in terrible shape. They're almost dangerous. All of the things that are hanging from them that could hit children and things. Am I remembering that right?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, my son used to play baseball on these fields in the 90s when it was a King County field, which was extremely poorly maintained. I would help the Little League. I used to mow the outfield. And, the infield was in horrible shape, and doing the artificial turf in the infield will have a dramatic difference in terms of not only in terms of lining the field, but in upkeep, maintenance, and as you said, no need to line them anymore. So that'll be a huge difference in playability. And I think this is just a tremendous project. I'm wondering if there might be other alternatives to improving the outfield, such as, I don't remember what it's called, plugging it or whatever, to help the drainage or something like that. That might be something that can be done in-house, but would have at least some improvement over what is there now, because I know it can get wet. As far as the fencing is concerned, that field is primarily used for Little League baseball, is that correct?
That's right.
And typically, a typical Little League field has fences at 200 feet, but these fences are much further than that. So there is no such thing as a home run over the fence in these fields, but that also means that the fences typically do not come into play during a regular game. And so if the fences are not in perfect repair, I don't think it's a liability or a concern as much because if it's just for Little League. That's my
That's a
opinion.
great point, yeah.
For the fences, you were also going to raise the one that went down the first baseline, right? That was going to go from 3 to 6 feet or something like that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is the industry standard.
Gotcha.
And has there been any reaction from the Little League community that uses these fields?
So it has been a while. This project was initially supposed to be done last year and then got moved to this year. But they have generally been very supportive, and they are fine with the increase from $20 to $26 because there's also savings in, lining the fields, and so they are excited. They're also excited to have a fully repaired, almost new batting cage.
So they're aware that it would be out of commission for the summer then?
They are.
My best friend does the scheduling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but so we are waiting for them to finish their season to start construction. So even though we will go into contract, all they will do is we get the lead time to order the turf. And then they will wait till the Little League finishes up their season and then go into
Oh,
construction.
so after season, that's good.
Yeah.
Are there any drainage problems there, or it seems to me like everything was draining just fine? We were there on a rainy day, if I recall.
Yes.
There's
you
no
are.
drainage problems there.
Although I don't know if we really walked on the grass, but
Wet.
yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not in any way a big concern.
Okay.
I move that we support option 1. Would that be the thing to do next?
That would be great. We have a motion to approve the moving forward with option 1. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All of us here are voting in favor of it. I know that the Little League was concerned about using the fields at Inglewood because the cost to use those fields that are completely artificial turf is significantly higher for them to use those fields. Is that correct?
So yes, that it did come up, and that is, definitely like a bigger conversation because they asked for kind of a lower rate because that is, they play with kids from that school boundary. However, if you recall, the city has 2 interlocal agreements, one with the Lake Washington School District and one with the Issaquah School District. And they were initially set up where we improved the fields at their respective high schools, and those 2 agreements were handled identically. So then at that time, it was fine to schedule kids that generally play in the Sammamish Little League at Skyline High School and the kids who play at Eastlake Little League in one of the schools to the north. But the Issaquah School District in 2017 chose to pull out of that agreement. I mean, the agreement still exists, but largely the city no longer schedules those fields. We don't really have a role in that. So for us, we have used taxpayer dollars from across the city to improve the fields at Inglewood Middle School. So we cannot allow the kids who go to that school some discount over the others, like it may be a traditional model if we had it identical across the two school districts. So then the other catch is every league, and they're fine with the rates. We've had them at Eastlake High School all along. They are the same leagues that also want to use any available leftover time at Inglewood Middle School. Those fields are now even newer and better, so we can't charge less for the fields at Inglewood Middle School. And so that's where we're at. They did cause some concern for the Little League because they had the use of those fields as grass fields, not when they were improved as artificial turf, and they had them at no cost for a long time. So that has been their concern.
Well, maybe this will help out at the ESP with these fields being improved, that they'll have more playability and it'll be easier for them to use them and schedule their games there.
Right. And then you will recall that Lake Washington School District also was making like the elementary school fields available for free and, all of that. Now they have a new program. And so we will have to come back and amend our agreement to them so we don't have to help. We had stepped in to help schedule those fields. Otherwise, our community would have to call Smith Elementary and Meade Elementary and Blackwell and then find out who has a field and then schedule it. So the city took over scheduling, but now the Lake Washington School District has a website that you can go to and you can pick the space you want. They're making their gym space available, classrooms available, their fields, and they are charging a rate that I think it is, we are at, we match our rates for the most part, but I'm just speaking from memory, so I, could be wrong about that. So it's more and more expensive, right, to maintain fields.
So the city will no longer be scheduling for the school district. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Nancy, yes, sir?
This expense is shocking, but that's what it takes, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Anna?
Yeah, I have a question. So if a team wants to schedule game or practice, so they will have the option of renting this park, East Sammamish Park, for $26 an hour, whereas if they rented the same space at Inglewood School, it would be quite a bit more.
Yes.
So, but they're just totally separate systems.
No, they're the same system. Actually, one thing I should clarify is it's only the elementary school scheduling that the district is taking back. Any field improved by the city is no, like we schedule them all the same. So we control the scheduling. We have different rates for grass, natural grass, for artificial turf, and then for these combination fields. So you would be paying 26 because it's this combination field with a natural grass outfield, whereas at Inglewood, it's all artificial turf.
Okay. Any more questions, comments about ESP? Thank you, Karen, for your presentation. Move on now to, well, we're supposed to have a youth board representative report, but Harshit is not available. Online. Oh, he is online. Excellent. Thank you, Mo.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I can give that now. Quick updates on the things that we're doing right now. So basically, as I've said a couple of times in the past, SYB is broken up into three subcommittees. And the career committee is basically currently working on, the three committees are career, community service, and arts. The career committee is currently working on creating like this 20-page packet about like 5 different like types of careers that that students can have, and figuring out like elementary schools that we can distribute them to, and potentially having workshops and stuff. So basically trying to get that interest in careers early on. Community service, I believe, is organizing some drives, and I'm not really sure about the arts, but yeah.
Thank you, Harshit. Anyone have any questions for Harshit? Apparently not. Thank you, Harshit, for joining us and presenting your report. Roberto is not here, or is he? He's not here. So we do not have a chairman's report this evening, and that moves us on to the director's report. Back to Anjali.
Thank you. And I have just 4 things I'd like to cover. The first is, actually, it was literally the day we met last month that the improvements at the Beaver Lake Pavilion, the repairs were complete. And so that is now functional and in use. The other great news that I wanted to share is the Volunteer of the Year award this year went to Anna Yorba. Yeah. And she was recognized for all her work as a master steward, her support for the Parks and Recreation Commission, for her work on the Parks and Recreation Commission, and her support in general of our parks. And so we have a few awards, and this one is actually somebody nominates a person for the award. So that's actually really great. It's not just the hours, it's you were nominated by someone. You also got a few other awards. I think she was back up there for a Legacy Award and for, I don't remember, but it was one of the colors. Silver, gold, and yeah. So we hope to see more of you at the ones next year. It is a fun event, and it's really nice to see that we still have community. We've grown in population, but we've still kept good connections and have people who are willing to make time to volunteer, which is really great. The other small piece of news is, the district did work with us and stripe pickleball at Inglewood, but we didn't want to just come in and take over tennis courts and put up pickleball nets on all of the courts. And so we started with, I think it's 6 nets, and now we added 2 more, so 8 nets of pickleball. So we have 8 pickleball courts at Inglewood School out of the potentially could have up to 12, I think. And then finally, yesterday we presented Big Rock South to Council, and Council did not vote for it to go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm choking, I'm not getting emotional, give me a minute. Need to remember to keep water up front here. So yeah, they, the concern is the buildings and the ongoing cost. So, there's always a cost to build things, then there's a cost to maintain, and then there's a cost to operate. And we don't have enough information on the operations, but this is also one of those interesting projects where there isn't a study that created the use, and then you go build. Here you have the opportunity of, you have a few buildings at site, and then you have to kind of, be respectful of what is the best approach. Do you keep them? Do you demolish them? And Mary was also at the meeting. We do inform her these major milestones, so she chose to make it. And if you recall, through the master plan phase, she was open about whether the house is kept or demolished. The community really wanted to see it saved. I think even the Parks Commission had actually voted to preserve the house. And so the adopted master plan calls for that to be preserved. There's also a twist with Building 120 now, in the mix, and Commissioner Wade spoke a little bit about that earlier. So, where do you put your money? Which building is going to serve what purpose? So those are the kind of things we need to answer and go back to council with a little bit. So I'm not sure on a timeline. We are still just processing all the comments we received.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, as you say, to with an overall feasibility or a need within the city, because we, as you said, we have the Building 120, we have the buildings at Big Rock South and Beaver Lake Lodge, and how are they currently being used? What could they be used for? What are the demands of the community? We also have the why and all that. So it's rather than do it as piecemeal, it makes sense to look at them overall and try to come up with a master plan for how to use them best. Great.
How does that work now that we have this approved master plan? And how big of a changes can we make to it without having to go through a whole nother master plan process? For example, I was one of the people who voted to save the house, but if the decision was made by the council to demolish the house, would that mean that we have to go through a whole new master plan process? What are our rules and procedures we require for that?
So that is why the initial recommendation from staff was to do the schematic design, because that's when you really analyze it and engineer it a little more to see, the stormwater is one of the big concerns, right? The basement floods. And so when you look at that and you understand the stormwater, is it an easy fix or is it not worth it? Structurally, we know the house is generally okay. But to answer your question, if you recall, in Big Rock Central, we had two much smaller structures not in the best condition. One was a house which was on log beam foundations, and then there was a small sauna. And the master plan initially did have some language that those are to explore further, but those are to be try and save them. But then we didn't spend money on a structural analysis during the master plan for Big Rock Central. And the first thing we did in the feasibility and schematic design for that parcel, we did a structural analysis and found it is just not worth saving. We didn't open up the master plan at that point. This is a more significant structure. I'm not entirely sure if it would just be a decision by council or if we would have to do something more.
Any further comment? Okay. Then we're moving on to the Parks Commission liaison reports. Roberto is not here for Sammamish Friends. Anna, do you have something to add about the community garden and Sammamish Botanical Garden Society?
Yeah, I got a note from Francine about the community gardens. She said that the bed replacement project has been delayed tentatively until 2027. In the meantime, they will be installing 2 pilot beds over the summer. The garden will be operated in a reduced capacity, and current gardeners will be offered plots at a discount for a shortened season, which will be March through Labor Day. So that's community gardens. The Botanical Garden Society is still hoping they can get in and do some gardening in Big Rock Park South, if anything, if any agreements can be made on that. And then they're concerned about stormwater areas being able to be taken care of by the stewards before the park is opened. And also they are suggesting that the Parker property be considered as a greenhouse site. That's all I have from them.
Anna, just to clarify on the wishes of the Botanical Garden Society at Big Rock South, they're not talking about establishing a formal botanical garden, but rather just doing some plantings around the park. Is that correct?
Right. Some areas that are on the master plan that are labeled as retaining gardens, or, in some area there's a stormwater pond that, could be sort of maintained with wetland plants. So they would like to sort of go on into some of the areas that are designated as gardens on the master plan and start to take care of those.
And I am next on the list with youth sports, and I do not have anything else to report. on that. Is there any other items on the agenda or that anyone needs to bring up? We have the meeting calendar available to us. I think our next meeting is on April Fool's Day, if I'm not mistaken. It's on the 1st, I believe. And if there's no other business, then I think we don't need a formal vote. We are adjourned. Thank you this evening.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Yeah. Now we can go out and party. So, were you at the meeting last time?